Hey, good morning to you. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. Appreciate you stopping in. This is Eyes on Smash Bros Radio, the award-winning only digital radio station in Jefferson County, Birmingham. Appreciate you coming on. If you haven't, please like, share, follow, subscribe. We are on YouTube. We are on Instagram as well as Facebook. We're an independent radio station for those independent artists. So if you have a song, if you are a manager or if you are a producer, call us. Like to have you on the show. That way you can showcase what you got. Hey, this is Friday. Don't forget tonight, starting at 3 p.m. over at the Crest Building, you have Black Men Create Fashion Contest and Flash Mob, which is being presented by Amy's Exquisite Gifts. There's a $150 adult grand prize, young adult and kid prizes. It's going to be over at the Crest Building rooftop tonight from 3 to 5 p.m. is a fashion show, and then from 5 to 8 is the mob. So you can get tickets on Eventbrite. If you use Eventbrite, you can also type in Smash Bros Radio to receive a discount, or you can go to Cash App, Amy Exquisite Gifts. So there's two ways that you can do it. A suit is required, ties optional, blazers and sports coats are welcome. Must have a jacket on. If you use a cash out payment, make sure that you have your full name, phone number, number of tickets. If you do not receive a confirmation text, your payment was not received. Also, general admission is $20. Children under 17 is $10. All-inclusive male tickets are $45, which includes an open bar. Ladies, your tickets are $25, which includes open bar, but does not include the group photo. This is for the men of the community. This is for the men in your family. This is a way of acknowledging and recognizing the men in your family. This is a chance of everyone dressing up. Hey, since this is Magic City Classic, this is a time for you Greeks to get out there. Let's see what the Alphas have, the Omegas have, the everyone else has. So please come out and follow. Take care of yourselves. I have Mr. Brooks calling in. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You sound very clear. I sound clear, or should I put on headphones?
No, you sound well. I'm just got on. So Mr. Brooks is the National SCLC Chief Legal Counsel. He is what I call my professor of legality. Is that the proper term, Mr. Brooks?
Whatever term you make up, that's the proper term. It's yourself.
Mr. Brooks has taken time out of his schedule, and I want to publicly acknowledge I appreciate the support that you have given me, because I know that with you being busy and for you to take time out, that means a lot, and I appreciate you tremendously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So today we're going to do a brief synopsis, because I think that it's most important that individuals understand the process in which we're governed by. And because of former President Trump being in office, a lot of issues that we knew that were there, but we never focused on, have been even more revealed. So I thought that today would be an ideal time for you to come in to try to explain what exactly is going on in Florida, especially when it comes to former President Trump, and about the question about, he started out with one judge and then went to another judge, which we're finding out was the judge that he hadn't handpicked. And then all of a sudden we find out there's a master judge now. So it's kind of confusing. So if you can try to explain to us exactly what is going on, and then if you can end with what is transpiring in the Supreme Court, because from what I understand, what I understand, the lower courts have a certain guidelines that they have to follow, and that's called canons, correct?
Or precedent, that's even a better word.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but when it comes to the Supreme Court, there are certain things that are not written down but should be understood that if you are a judge, is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir. And
Okay.
those are the counsel ethics that you were talking about earlier.
Okay. So, well, let's start out with what's happening in Florida. And
Okay, let's go a simple definition because I think that'll help move things along fast. If you're an ordinary person, and let's say you're in a federal criminal matter, of which people are, you have what's called a magistrate judge in federal court. So that person rules on evidentiary items, kind of moving the court along, right?
yes, sir.
Well, sometimes the matter is too hot. By too hot, I mean it's too important for people to want that kind of judge who's a temporary judge. Who basically, they stay there forever, but they're actually there under contract appointment. It's either every 6 years, every 8 years, whatever it is. It's a period of time, and they get renewed over and over again. So if you don't want a younger judge or a judge who's a magistrate affecting that, you can go to an older, seasoned judge who's still a fully fledged, life-appointed judge, but he's called a special master, which means he'll serve the same function, basically move the case along, but he'll have the importance of having been a federal judge. So they're really there for very special functions.
So this isn't rare in what has transpired then, but it just hasn't been done relatively like it has now. So we've always had these master judges.
As a matter of fact, there's a list of them. I think there's a federal, there's a list of federal biographies called the biographies of U.S. federal claims, which are special masters, because they sit not in federal court, but federal claims. Anybody who's dealt with federal issues with either patents or tax know what claims court is, which is a different type of court. But anyway, there are these special masters for federal issues that exist, and part of it is they're for things that are typically more complicated. So this isn't the first time that a federal master has come into an issue. There was one, oh man, when was that? It was back in the day. I'm trying to see if I can recall it, where a special master was appointed regarding it was under Lyndon B. Johnson to the U.S. Senate. There was an investigation about voter fraud. So sometimes right after the end of World War II. But there was a special master that was appointed by the Supreme Court. I'm just saying it happens. Just that unless you're kind of a judicial history nut the way I am, nobody's keeping up with all that stuff.
So when did they bring? So basically, sort of like propaganda, because the way that the media presented it, it was like, well, this has never been done before, and this is rare. This is the president, but it's not. It's been done before.
Yeah, it's been done before. And when they say this is the president, what they really mean to say is, because the president is involved, we're not going to use the magistrate system. We're going to use the special master.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that these people made up or they came out of nowhere.
Yes, sir.
They've been used before in other cases. As a matter of fact, there was a special master appointed through John Ashcroft. Now, that wasn't a special master judge. That was a special master DOJ appointment, but it was the same thing applied. It was after the September 11th attacks, 2001, 9/11, and people wanted to know what happened to those victim compensation funds. So because of it, they appointed a special master to oversee the money being given out. So these things happen. It's just that typically people don't hear about them. There was a special master appointed. This is decades ago. I know it wasn't this century. I don't think it was 1800s. I think it was 1900s. When there was a special master about child vaccine issues. This is a long, long time ago. So anyway, these things have come up before. Prison rights issues sometimes, these special masters, they're not unusual. They just don't get a lot of coverage in the media.
So really what it comes down to, what we are experiencing now,
yeah,
we've experienced before. This is nothing new.
Correct. And I really think this is most closely aligned to what happened post-World War II with the Lyndon Baines Johnson Democratic Party investigation.
Man. So with what is transpiring with the confusion, for lack of another word. So you started with the magistrate, but you needed a seasoned judge.
No, never had a magistrate. Everybody knew that a magistrate shouldn't be involved. So, common sense kicked in on that one.
Yes, sir.
It didn't even go that route. They knew you were going to need a special master. And that's what the issue was. A special master could have been appointed a long time ago. If you believe the Department of Justice, they're like, we could have had a special master. Look at this over a year ago. Trump people forced us to get in front of a federal court, and now we're right back to a special master. In other words, it was a tactic to slow things down. That's their opinion. Obviously, we don't know what the correspondence would be between them.
Yes,
but
sir.
That's what they said publicly.
So can you explain where the confusion for me came in was when the Trump, I hate to say, but the Trump appointed judge stepped in. They were saying that she didn't have any jurisdiction, that it should have gone to another judge. I don't understand why.
I don't buy that either. The notion that there's a conflict just because she was appointed by a president, that's just bogus. The real reason behind that is because Trump made statements that his judges, quote unquote, judges he appointed are his judges.
Yes, sir.
So while that is disturbing and that doesn't, that doesn't present the way America wants to present, well, that's the president we elected. See, we can't go into this. I know I'm kind of going off point, and I'll bring it back. You can't go into this point where because you don't like how he acted in the role he had and say, oh, but Trump did that, so we can't do that anymore. Well, he was our elected president, and presidents have a lot more discretion than people understand, just that almost all presidents don't use it the way he used it, right?
Yes, sir.
I've never heard of a president trying to make money from the federal government. I don't remember that at all. I think the last time that was even an issue, early 1900s, that was Teapot Dome scandal.
That's
that
what
was,
I was, yes, sir.
That was. That's over 110 years ago, whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? It's
yes,
so
sir.
unusual, the things he was doing, that doesn't mean you get to say, oh, okay, he did it, so it's wrong. Well, the question is how much space do we have for that stuff to go on?
So when you compare our system with every other system that's out there,
yeah,
our system is still the best. Now, we knew that there were some there were some gray areas, and there were some things that needed to be tightened up on. But before former President Trump came into view, we kind of like dismissed it. But now, because of his name and because of his actions, now we see something that's wrong. But
correct.
So is it the right interpretation that you can think whatever you want to about former President Trump? In the legal field, he technically did not do anything illegal. It may be immorally corrupt, but we can't do morality. We have to go by what is set up by the Constitution. So you can say whatever you want to about him, but the question is, did he follow the Constitution? Did he follow the legal portion that's out there? And if he followed the legal part, if he did not do anything illegal, then we shouldn't hold him to a higher standard than anybody else. Is that correct?
Correct. But the problem is the things that we've heard are patently illegal. In other words, you can't take classified documents.
Correct.
That's just it's no. And in fact, the president of the United States at the time, Donald Trump, ran on Hillary Clinton mishandling documents. So you can't say he didn't understand it. He fully understood the concept.
So, in a way, he's like Dennis the Menace. He knows what he's doing, and he's pushing to see how far he can get away with it.
And that's what I feel like you're saying.
Okay. So with the special master being, created or being chosen, there are certain guys. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a better way to relate.
because like you were saying, there's a pool, there's a number, or there's a file, or whatever that people go to, and individuals that are in that pool, that are in that category, you choose. Is there a number that you given all of them, or you just given 3, or?
But you know what? I've never been a part of the process, so I honestly don't know.
But since this gentleman was chosen as the master,
right,
the judge that is, what is it? Is overseeing. She has given him special instructions on what he can and can't do. Correct?
Not quite.
Okay.
She should give dominion over certain areas. That's why when she started meddling with his rulings, I found that to be highly unusual, because typically a special master is given a lot of broad discretion to do whatever he wants to do.
Now, what I've learned with him being a special master, he is the same caliber as the judge down in Florida, but she's still the one that's overseeing everything, and he reports to her, correct?
Yes, he does. Yes, sir.
So when she's giving out these guidelines, I guess that's the proper terminology, then he follows through with what is required of him, and then he reports back to her. And then she decides on what is given to her by him?
Yes, but typically you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just kind of let him go with what he wants to do.
So okay. Both of them are federal judges, though. And even though he may have more tenure, per se, years in, that doesn't mean that he overrules her, or she, or what,
right. She's still what's called an Article 3, and that's Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution. So she is the final decider. But
okay.
Typically she's supposed to go hands off.
Yes, sir.
But she's not. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
So she gives a deadline. He follows a deadline. He turns in to her what he has discovered. But while he's doing the reviewing and all, he can make special instructions to former President Trump's attorneys, as well as DOJ, and they have to follow suit, especially when it comes to what is it? What do you call those written forms that they have to do? Reports, and then he turns all that over to the presiding judge, and she has the last word.
Correct. Now, typically the report is usually a final determination report, but because the stakes are so high there, you probably have some interim reports, I would think.
Wow. There's one thing that is so fascinating to me is the way that it's being reported, because the way that it was being reported, you would have thought that this was the first time in history that a special master was utilized. But now we're finding that they've always been there, and so this is nothing new. This is just general common sense, common knowledge. And we've always had special masters. So this isn't anything rare. It's always been.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And there's certain qualifications for a special master?
Yes. I mean, typically they parallel the same qualifications of a regular federal judge.
Okay. So we're just waiting for everything to come to a conclusion when it comes to the special master. He turns in everything that is required to the judge down in Florida, and then we'll wait on her decision.
Correct.
Because now I have a question, because there's been certain actions that the judge in Florida has done, and so the DOJ has gone to, I think, the 11th court. Is that because you have the judges down in Florida, but over her you have judges too that rule on what she does, correct?
Yeah, those are the appellate judges of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. That's also a court I'm a member of that covers Florida, Georgia, and Alabama.
And so there are 11 appellate courts.
There might be more than 11. Hold on, I don't know.
Because the question came up that with the judges that Trump had appointed or that were voted in or approved, that they were thinking that since there's 9, there's a possibility we may have to increase the number.
That's called court packing.
That's what I thought.
That's highly objectionable, just speaking personally.
Yes, sir.
We've had 9 for centuries, so I don't think that that's a good idea. The people voted for who they voted for. They led the result it led to. You don't undo all of this because of that.
So we pretty much have allowed our emotions to get involved.
Yeah. And the last time we had this kind of discussion, it was FDR talking about threatening court packing and all that stuff. I thought it was a horrible idea then when he was trying to save the country from financial collapse, and he was. But it was a bad idea, and people talked him off the ledge on that. The Supreme Court kind of moved away from it. But I don't like the idea of court packing plans, and I don't like it. So FDR tried to do it, and I don't. No, I think it's a bad idea.
Yes, sir. So with what's transpiring down in Florida, do we have the issues that are before the Supreme Court now? What I've learned that each justice is assigned a certain, is the proper term, region?
Yes.
They oversee?
Yes.
So Clarence Thomas is the proper term overseer of, because we're dealing with Lindsey Graham. He's trying to prolong being, having to go before the Georgia. So he's over, so each judge is over a certain region. And when a certain issue comes up in that region, it is automatically understood that that judge is to handle that. But they can either handle it independently or they can bring it before the entire court, correct?
Correct. So the D.C. Circuit goes to Judge Roberts. That's your Chief Justice. I just pulled it off. The new black Justice, Ketanji Jackson, she's over the First Circuit, so that's basically New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, that area. Second Circuit, which is New York, is Sonia Sotomayor, Delaware, Samuel Alito. But to answer your question, scrolling all the way down, Clarence Thomas is over the 11th Circuit, which is Alabama, Florida, and Georgia.
Wow. So anything that deals with the 11th, Clarence Thomas deals with. So so when President Trump, or when Lindsey Graham went before the Supreme Court to halt or to stop, Justice Thomas was correct in putting a temporary stay. But now the DA from Georgia has to present the reasons why it shouldn't be prolonged, correct?
I'm getting an interruption. Hold on for a second. I'll go back to you. I'm so sorry. I got to look at this one quick. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. I appreciate you coming on.
I'm back.
So, with this temporary stay, Justice Thomas has given the DA, I think she turned it in yesterday, but he's given her yet till today, but she turned it in last night, stating why there shouldn't be a temporary stay and why Senator Graham should come before the special counsel to do the testimony, correct?
Correct.
But it's still left up to Justice Thomas whether to accept what the DA has turned in and to basically say that, no, you cannot, he does not have to testify before the special counsel, correct?
Correct.
So...
Wait, I don't know if he fully ruled he doesn't have to. I thought the ruling was for clarification, but I haven't read it.
Right. Clarification, yes, sir. So there's, yes, sir, thank you, the clarification. So as long as she provides the clarification, then again, he can either do it himself or he can bring it before the entire court. And nine times out of 10, so this isn't the first time this has happened again. This is just regular judicial process.
Yeah, just normal judicial business.
Normal. That's right. But when it comes to certain individuals, what is classified as normal to the individuals in the judiciary system is somewhat abstract when it comes to a novice like myself. But this is just normal procedure. This isn't anything new, and we shouldn't be in such an uproar. It's just the way, which pretty much has become somewhat, is a proper terminology, propaganda. It's been a twist put on it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot assigned to it in terms of people going, oh, when it's not that big of a deal.
Because it's so like you've opened the gate, because this isn't the first time something similar has happened. So you've opened the gate. You can't close the gate, because why would you allow the practice to occur back then, but now all of a sudden you want to say, no, we can't do that.
Exactly. That's my point.
But what is so amazing is that it's just a revisit of history. We've done
Correct.
this before, and that's another thing. When you have what you call the books that the attorneys use or the pre-legals use, court cases that are in the volumes, because y'all have multiple volumes of court cases that have been tried in the past, and then research is done by the paralegal to bring some type of substance to what that attorney is trying to prove, correct?
Correct.
So all the volumes of previous cases, that in itself shows that it's a repeat, because you have examples that have been tried before. And to prove your point, you bring in these cases before, saying that, well, in case such and such, this was done, and you're doing an explanation of why you think that it should be to your advantage again, correct? Is that the proper term?
I would go with that. I mean, I think that's a good layman's way to put it.
Because the purpose of a paralegal, the attorney gives a paralegal pretty much a synopsis of what he is trying to prove or whatever. Paralegal goes to the books, look up the cases that coincides with the case to see if there's some type of substance or some type of foundation to prove what the attorney is trying to prove or to bring forth.
I wouldn't give them quite that much power. I would say that they are supposed to be able to buttress up their arguments, but the lawyer should really know where it's going. But that's just kind of, that's splitting hairs, really.
Yes, sir.
So, you can go with that. I would phrase it differently, but it doesn't make you wrong.
Okay, how would you phrase it? Because I don't want to get anybody confused.
No. I think you're right that sometimes they help, and sometimes they actually do find information. But you would hope that the lawyer already has a theory, and they're just proving the theory through case law. That's
it.
Just a very slight difference. Very slight.
Because they have a theory. They have a blueprint of where they want to go, and they just have to have some type of example to prove their theory, or to prove the foundation of which you're going for. Because I noticed that with the Darrell Brooks case, the judge was always throwing out court cases to the individual that was trying to represent himself. So that's why she was doing what she was doing, to put it in the record. So if in case he wants to appeal, everything is documented in the report or in the record, so then that way it has some type of substance.
Yeah. Just to let you know, quick kind of breaking news, Nancy Pelosi's husband was apparently attacked with a hammer early this morning by somebody who broke in their house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, in the bigger picture, this election that's coming up in November 8th,
Yeah.
this election that's coming up holds a lot of significance in that it will dictate which direction the United States will go.
I don't know. I'm not going to go that far. If the Democrats can hang on to the Senate and the Republicans end up with the House, is really anything going to change? I'll reserve judgment on that one.
So when it comes to the Supreme Court, because people were saying that when it comes to what's the proper terminology, recusing or let's use Clarence Thomas because of his wife. He should have reclused. What's the proper term? He should not have overseen certain things. Recluse or
recuse.
Recuse. So when it comes to the Supreme Court, there's certain things that are not listed that other courts have, but it should be common sense because of them being judges. Is that correct?
Yes, 110%.
So when they were saying that the Congress should go in to amend or to put some type of qualifications or guidelines, then that's what they were referring to, that if you have these guidelines for the lower courts, the Supreme Court should have the same type of guidelines.
I kind of, this is my analogy I would give. When you come to a new job, they don't put in your handbook what a bathroom is. They assume you're not going to pee on the floor.
Yes, sir.
So I don't have to change anything. But that's just my personal opinion.
So do you think that because when it comes to federal judges, those are positions for life, correct? The appellate court judges, those are lifetime positions.
Yes, sir.
Just like when it comes to Supreme Court, it's lifetime positions.
Yep.
So for individuals to come out and say that, well, because of what Justice Clarence Thomas has done, that he should be impeached, that's ludicrous.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's beyond ludicrous.
Because there was history, was it because there was another incident in the past that was allowed, but now, like I was saying, you've opened the gate, so why would you allow this to transpire back then, and now you won't let it do now? So you have,
exactly.
so technically you're on a slippery slope then.
Yeah, so you've already had a Chief Justice, not the President, but Rehnquist, failed to recuse in a case. So, was it Rehnquist? Yeah. I think yeah. And so because of that, if you didn't do anything about his, and there was clearly nothing done, then that's one of the worst of them.
Yes, sir.
To me, the case is Lard versus Tatum. I just put up Laird versus Tatum, and it's a pretty bad case where he probably should have recused, and he just didn't.
Yes,
so, people talking about Clarence Thomas, that's nothing compared to what Rehnquist did. So the standard has been destroyed, a long time ago. There's nothing new about that. Oh, and Scalia had one as well.
So to put it in, let's see if I can. So what is transpiring now is normal procedure when it comes to the judiciary system. There's nothing new.
It's not normal. There was a lot written about Scalia's failure to recuse and what it meant and what it was about. But it is something that has happened before. And I'm saying if you're not going to do anything about what happened with Rehnquist, and you're certainly not going to do anything about what happened with Scalia, then I find that to be a pretty hard one not to now all of a sudden started enforcing it with the second black justice to ever sit. I'm not here to wave the flag for Clarence Thomas,
right?
But all this indignation when you said very little about Scalia, very little about Rehnquist, the standard is the standard.
And that's the word. if it's the standard, why question it now? You didn't question it back then, so why question it now? Because it's a standard. So basically, you're putting a monkey wrench and trying to change something that's been the standard.
Right.
See, I find the procedure part interesting. Stanford University used to have the appellate court, or no, that was, I think that the appellate court and the Alabama Supreme Court could come to the auditorium, so that way the students were able to witness. And these were actual cases that were before the courts. And it was a way of getting the students to understand that these are, yes, it can be boring. Yes, it can be. But at the same time, it gives you an insight. It gives you an understanding of the process that is going on. And to see...
And here's the case about Scalia. So I can give you that one. I found it.
Yes, sir.
Sierra Club case. And the Sierra Club was suing Dick Cheney specifically as an individual. Well, the case was going to the Supreme Court. And as it was going to the Supreme Court, found out that Dick Cheney and Antoine Scalia went on a hunting trip with each other. They went duck hunting together. And so the Sierra Club was like, oh, you got to refuse. If that's your boy, like, y'all hang out like that. And Scalia was like, pish posh. I'm going to sit. I'm going to hear it. That, to me, is a very gross violation of it. And that's nowhere near what Clarence Thomas is being accused of. Just to give you context.
And was that the one where someone was shot?
It might have been. You know what? I don't know.
Because it was, I remember back, there was a question about someone being shot and the way that it was handled.
Yeah, Dick Cheney shot a guy, shot a lawyer, I think it was Louisiana, or maybe it was Texas. But he shot him in the face while they were duck hunting. Or quail hunting. Might have been pheasant. Some kind of fowl.
I just think that everyone should have, I'm not saying that you have to have a degree, but I think that if you are living under a system, that you should have pretty much an idea of how the process, what the procedures are. I think that you need to know, when you say that, well, it's my constitutional right, do you understand what that means? Because when you compare, and I should have brought the book, when you compare the United States Supreme Court, the United States Constitution to the Alabama 1901 Constitution, you can read out the U.S. Constitution in one setting. It's not that long. You can do it in one setting. Whereas with the 1901 Alabama Constitution, it is the largest of the state constitutions.
Yeah, and probably the worst written.
Exactly. So now what I've seen, they now have finally come up and wanting to rid the 1901 Constitution of the racist terms. Now, I think that this was tried earlier, but everybody was scared to go in and to make changes because they were scared of the changes that would transpire from that. But people, if you say that this is my constitutional right, now I taught AP government. That I think I was blessed. That's when you came in. When you would come on Saturdays to prep the kids for the We the People program for the Center for the Center for Law and Civic Education. So I think that it is most important now that you understand what your constitutional rights are. Because for you just to say, well, it's my constitutional right. Have you read the Constitution, and do you actually understand when you say that? Because if you have not, I haven't taught since 2013. And even though I've taught AP government for 6 or 7 years, maybe longer, it's still not readily available for me. And that's why I kept my books. And that's one reason why I appreciate you so much for coming in to give me a little bit more firm foundation when it comes and refreshes my memory and my mind when it comes to the Constitution and the government. Because I think that now most importantly, is paramount that you have some understanding of exactly what your rights are and how the procedures are used. Because if you don't have an understanding within, you're kind of lost.
Exactly. And Mr. Humes, I am getting inundated right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I appreciate you. You have a good weekend, and again, I appreciate you so much for coming in.
And I deeply apologize to the audience. I have great respect for what you're trying to get across to people. Just kind of real life is invading me at the moment.
Yes, sir. You take care.
Okay, you too, sir.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
There you have it. There you have it. Yes, it is confusing. Yes, it can be boring. But at the same time, it's a necessity. It is something that we have to understand what the procedures are. We have to understand the significance. We have to understand the relevancy. We have to understand the procedures that have to be followed. Now, to find out that they have always been special masters, that is really mind blowing. And to think that what we are going through now, or what we are experiencing now, has been experienced before, because that's why you have the law books. And there are, I don't know, a whole library of legal books that have past cases. And if you're looking for a job that makes nice money, being a paralegal is a good way to do it, because a paralegal researches and they have an understanding of what volume to go to find whatever they need. So I just find it fascinating of the procedure. Find it fascinating historically how things are reviving now. November 8th is most pivotal, is most important. There are a lot of issues that are out there that are going to be decided. And depending on who controls what, is going to put the guidelines down for us. But I find it interesting. I find it extremely interesting. So I hope I haven't bored you too much. I hope if anything, this will get your interest started, your hunger, and knowing exactly just a brief history of just doing the procedures of the court system. Because I think that we need to know, have a even a novice or an elementary type sense of the proceedings when it comes to the legal system. So, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you tremendously for allowing me to come in. I appreciate Mr. Brooks deeply. He doesn't take time off. He makes time, and I appreciate him tremendously for taking time because he doesn't have to. So I appreciate him tremendously. I'm forever indebted to Mr. Brooks for taking time out, and I appreciate him. If you look into joining SCLC, becoming an active member, an active participant, same way with NAACP, this is a way for you to understand exactly what is transpiring, understand the importance of having both of these organizations, SCLC as well as NAACP. So, but again, I appreciate you for allowing me to come in. You have a wonderful Friday. I'm going to close out. You have a wonderful Friday. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget about the event tonight over at the Crest building downtown, right across from McGowan's, not McGowan's, but the Science Museum, right down the street from Alabama Theater. Frankie Valli is here. Saturday is a Magic City Classic. as everyone should know, I am a uh, uh, starch supporter of my alma mater, Alabama State University. We know that it is historically and it is common knowledge that most of the time A&M wins the football team, but we know the majority of the time that the marching Hornets always beat the Bulldogs. Y'all take care. Know your value, know your worth, know that you are the obstacle that prevents you from being whatever you want. And most importantly, know that I love you more than I love my luggage. And I'll see you Monday. Take care. The live stream on the show. On the show. The live stream. On the show. The live stream. The live stream on the show.